Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, Thursday, June 5th, 2025. Hopefully, everybody's had a good week thus far as we're winding it down. I do need to step away from the camera for a moment. I'll be right back. I'll put some music on to entertain you guys. And when I come back, I'll probably talk about it. All right. Anyways, hello. So we're at the 3 minute mark now. So let's see. All right. So let me do one more thing here. I'm gonna go off camera one more time here, real quickly. Just do one more thing here. I'll be right back. All right. So anyway, so we're now past the 4 minute mark now. Guess I should get it going on to talk about what's on tap for tonight. So tonight, we're gonna go over one article from Bleeding Full, the 303rd episode of Indie Comic Showcase and Bleeding Full from Chris Braley. We're going to be looking at some of the comics from there, and then of course we'll have the wrestling wrap up, and then this day in each history. So let me go ahead and get all that going here. All right, so here it is. All right, so Indie Comic Showcase number 303, Ace of Spades, Silence Do Good, Electric Dreams, and Magic That Made Us Slick. I believe we did a Silence Do Good preview a while back as well. Article by Chris Braley, published yesterday. So let's get into this. Welcome back to another installment of Indie Comic Showcase, the weekly blog where we signal boost a few truly independent comics that are currently crowdfunding their projects, crowdsourcing their funding in some way, or just completely self-publishing on their own. Every little bit of support for these creators matters, from a single dollar pledge to the $25 bundle, and of course, the higher tiers are usually fun too. Even if you can't back a campaign or buy a book, you can share or tweet about these projects to your friends and followers, or of course, come here when we do our show, and we'll also share the information out. Of course, a friendly reminder to you guys, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Of course, with all that being said now, let's continue on with the article here. On Indie Comic Showcase, we interview the creators, show off some art, tell you how you can check out the product for yourself. Below, we have some outstanding crowdfunding campaigns this week for you to learn about, enjoy, and hopefully support by backing one or more of them. Thanks for checking these out, for being the best part of Indie Comic Showcase. Let's jump in. So Silence Do Good, Electric Dreams by Sean Salter. All right, so let me go grab the link here. And this looks like it's a Fund My Comic project from Turkey Robot Comics. All right, did I just? Yes, it looks like I goofed. Looks like I goofed on something there. I guess I didn't realize. Let me go back and grab that. Oh yeah, so that's exactly what happened. Okay. Alright, so let me once again pull up the thing here. So I didn't realize. Usually it does a second. Usually it does a separate window when I grab the link, but this time it didn't. So I didn't click. I didn't figure that out right away there. So that's why all that was kind of goofy. So let me get the link up here. All right, so here's the link right there for you guys for this first first book we're going to look at from Fund My Comic, of course. Silence Do Good, Electric Dreams by Sean Salter. So And if you guys want to grab that link to where you can go and share it, or go and look up the project yourself to check it out, there's a link. So now let's get into the article here. So Silence Do Good by Sean Salter. Silence Do Good, Electric Dreams by Sean Salter. I think we did a previous book by this guy too. So let's take a look at this now. Okay, so Chris Braley. For those unfamiliar with your latest project, can you give us the elevator pitch for Silence Do Good, Electric Dreams? Sean Salter. Can one revolutionary genius save the future before time runs out? Benjamin Franklin, as Silence Dogood, is a clever, daring, and rebellious teenager thrust into an unimagined crisis. Okay. Yeah, I think we did do a previous comic by this guy. We kind of covered one that he did before and too. I thought I recognized the title there. Snatched from his own time, he's imprisoned in a virtual reality world designed by Milo, America's most formidable tech mogul. This world, governed by a cunning AI, is a place where algorithms dictate every move. Humanity is trapped in a sleepless dream, and liberty is a forgotten concept. Faced with a pivotal decision, Ben's choices reach far beyond his own fate. They threaten to alter the course of history. As he navigates this bewildering new world, he must rally allies, outsmart formidable foes, and unravel the secrets of his abduction before time itself is irreversibly disrupted. Sounds like a very interesting story there. Chris, what inspired you to create this comic, and what motivated you to dedicate, or what motivated your decision to self-publish? Sean, the idea came from wondering what the founding fathers would think of the America we have today. A world with AI on the rise, a lack of accountability for individuals, an obvious moral decline in society. I chose to self publish because no one in the mainstream is addressing these subjects. Chris, so who is this comic best suited for? Who do you see as your main audience? Sean, it's for all ages, but primarily for readers aged 10 and up. Philadelphia, PA, 4/11/1724. By the time. Hmm. Yeah, some interesting dialogue here. Hmm. And again, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So as we continue on here, Chris, can you describe your artistic style and creative process? How did your background influence your approach to this project? Sean, my style is heavily influenced by my background in animation. I developed my abilities as an artist and writer during my time in entertainment advertising while working in Los Angeles. Let's see. Chris, tell us about the creative team behind this project. Who else contributed to bringing it to life? Sean, I wrote and drew the book myself and did the coloring along with Brett R. Smith. I also received consultation and guidance from Mike Barron and Paul Rivoch. So Mike Barron helped out on this project. That's quite a name to have in your corner there. We have variant covers by Dan Lawless and Eric Weathers. Chris, that's some strong talents. What does your production workflow look like? Sean, the book is finished and ready to print. If all goes well with the printer, we expect to start shipping in August. We're taking our time to ensure the final printed book meets the high standards our audience deserves. Chris, what have you learned from self-publishing and crowdfunding process so far? Sean, I've learned a lot. I'm really enjoying the creative freedom that comes with it. Chris, do you have any plans for future projects? Um, will there be more stories set in this world? Sean, absolutely. I have another graphic novel coming out with the writer Kurt Schlichter. There is a 6-page preview of the book included in the book of Silence Dogood. Chris, are there any special features, perks, or tiers available for backers of this campaign? Sean, yes, we're offering a foil cover, a 78-page full-color action-adventure sci-fi story, and a special 6-page preview of my next graphic novel, People's Republic. There's also a sketchbook section and dossiers on the main characters. So he's going all out, isn't he? Chris, is there anything else you'd like to share with our readers before we wrap up? Sean, there's much more coming from us at Turkey Robot Comics. Chris, good luck, Sean. So, Turkey Robot Comics, that's a very interesting name for a comic book company. Anyways, as we get ready to move on to the next project here. Again, that you see the link in there in the chat there. If you guys want to go check that out. All right. So the next book we're going to be looking at here is called "The Magic That Made Us Slaves" by uh, Taranpreet Singh. Taranpreet Singh. But I hope I'm pronouncing that right, anyways. So let's go grab the link there. And this is an Amazon link. This project is being done on Amazon. Great. I just hope that it somehow fits. It's going to probably take like 2 or 3 things here. Let's see. Yeah, the pain in the butt with Amazon here is that anytime you want to grab a link to share, they have this long blasted link that probably can't get it all in one fell swoop here. I'm just deleting some of the excess because I think as long as the the first one is there, I think it will still work. Hopefully. So there's the link. I'm gonna, of course, try it on my end here. Oh, and apparently, oh yeah, the link will work. Oh, that's good to know. All right, so the link will apparently work, so that's good. Sometimes I just have to take off the excess in order to. So if you guys want to go check that project out, the link is in the chat. All right, so let's get into this part of the article. The Magic That Made Us Slaves by Taranpreet Singh. Let's get started here. So, Chris Braley, welcome to Indie Comics Showcase. Taranpreet, to start, can you give us the elevator pitch for your comic? What's the story about? Taranpreet Singh. It's like Batman vs Superman, but set in ancient Egypt. One side has technology far ahead of its time and uses it to enslave mankind until a savior arrives to free the people. The story is 133 pages long and in full color, and probably also with the whole advanced civilization with advanced technology bit, probably taken some elements from the, of course, from the Silver Age Hawkman stories with Cater and Shayara Hall. Chris, what inspired this comic? Taranpreet. The idea came from my dreams. I'm starting out by publishing it on Amazon. Oh, that one thing looks almost like something that was probably out of the Land of the Lost bit. um, anyway, Chris, who do you think this comic is best suited for? What kind of readers will enjoy it most? Taranpreet, it's for fans of superhero mysteries, mysticism, and technology. Chris, tell us about your style and creative process. How did you develop your approach? Taranpreet, um, I wrote the book after meeting the artist Charles Butler. He guided me on how to present the panels, which was a very rewarding experience that I really enjoyed. Chris, can you tell us more about your creative team who helped bring this project to life? Taranpreet, um, Charles Butler, who lives nearby, is the artist I found on Facebook. We met to discuss the project, and he showed me some of his art before I hired him. He penciled, inked, and colored and lettered all the pages. So he pretty much took care of all the drawing aspects of it. Mm. Chris, what have you learned from the self-publishing process so far? Taranpreet. Um, Not much yet, except that it's difficult. um, yeah. Chris, do you have plans for future projects? Are there more stories you want to tell? Taranpreet, we'll see what happens next. Chris, Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with our readers? Terranpreet, please purchase and support the book. It's epic movie material. All right, so there we go with that one, and then the final. And apparently there was something up with the link, I guess, because the picture didn't come through, I guess, for some odd reason. Ace of Spades by William Bochat. Let me see if we can grab the link and see what's going on here. That one. So this one's actually from Indiegogo. This is an Indiegogo project. That did have more of a. Ace of Spades by William Bochat. An interesting way he spells it here. I guess we'll find out when we. So this is an Indiegogo project. So there's the link if you guys want to go check that out, check that project out. I don't know why that thing is stuck there. And I just put this in there just to try something there. But anyways. I was just trying something there, but anyways. All right. So, anyways, getting back to the article here. All right. So, Chris Braley, welcome to Indie Comic Showcase, William. Can you introduce us to Ace of Spades? What's the core premise of the series? William Bochat, issue number 1 follows Spade, the greatest thief in future Las Vegas, looking to overthrow the mafia and free his corrupted city. To do so, he needs the perfect partner, but first he must finish the biggest casino heist yet and escape some deadly assassins. Chris, what inspired you to create this story? Um, and what led you to take the self-publishing route? William, I had the idea since college after visiting Vegas. I wondered why nobody else had chosen it for a superhero location. Well, I would say could that be because I mean the city's nickname is Sin City, so I don't know if you'd really think too much of superheroes coming from a place calling itself Sin City. I guess that's neither here nor there. So anyways, we continue on here. Ready to continue on. All right. So I took that location and combined it with my love for sci-fi and Robin Hood. I chose to self-publish because I love grassroots comics. Chris, who do you think will enjoy Ace of Spades the most? Is there a particular audience you had in mind? Um, William, Ace of Spades is for 90s comics lovers. It has lots of action, a cool sci-fi setting, and subtle sex appeal too. Chris, can you describe your creative approach and how you developed your storytelling style for this project? William, for me, your characters are the most important part of a story. The setting and plot are also a big deal, but nobody will care if your characters if your characters are lame. I like to write my story around the characters. Tell us about your creative team behind the comic. Who else helped you bring your vision to life? William. Rodrigo Sevilla is my artist. He helped redesign my characters to look much cooler. He also changed my color palettes a bit, which also helps the art prop. Chris, what does your production process look like? How far along is the book at this point? Um, William, the book is mostly complete. I start with the script first, um, then discuss page layouts with my artist. Then, once all the art is done, I have the comic lettered. Let's see, Chris, what have you learned about self-publishing crowdfunding through this experience? William, I have learned that getting people to the Indiegogo page is tough. My YouTube channel has a fairly large audience, so I can use it to advertise, but getting my viewers to actually click the link is tricky. To anyone reading this, marketing is much harder than you think. Let's see, Chris, do you have plans for future stories or projects beyond this book? William, I plan on continuing my top tier story and also sharing my first graphic novel illustrated by a popular Marvel artist. Let's see, then Chris, are there any special perks, or exclusive items available for backers of your campaign? Yes, the crowdfunding has two exclusive covers and a poster. Perfect for anyone's collection. And then Chris wraps up here. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with our readers? William, I really love writing comics and designing characters, so I really hope this crowdfunding campaign does well. And Chris says, best of luck with the campaign, William. All right, so that's it for this installment of this installment. If you're a creator ramping up your own campaign or have a comic available for purchase online and you want to be featured in our weekly column, click here. So we can hopefully help you get more eyes on your crowdfunding comic project. Till next time, support indie comics. Alrighty then. Oh, there we go with that. I'm going to need to step away from the computer for just a moment. I will be right back, but while I'm gone, I'll put some music on to entertain you guys. I'll be right back, and when I come back, I'll just go through one last go through of those links for you guys. All right, I'm back now. So we're done with the article. So let me just go through the. So here's of course the first book we went over. It's on Fund My Comic. Silence Do Good, Electric Dreams from Sean Salter. I want to go check that out. There's a link for that. And of course, here's the Amazon. Here's the book that's on Amazon, which you guys know is a long freaking. So The Magic That Made Us Slaves by Tarnpreet Singh. There's that link if you guys want to go check that out. And yes, even though I did delete the extended links, this portion of the link, the first part of the link, you can click it still and go to the site to grab the book. So it will still work. I checked it. And last but not least, we have Ace of Spades from William Bochat on Indiegogo. There's that one if you guys want to go check that out. And of course, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that being said, now we will move on to the wrestling wrap up. So we'll go back to last night's. Look back at last night's. Well, last night, unbeknownst to me, TBS, I believe, was doing a double airing. As now, normally on Wednesdays they'll do Dynamite Live, and then they'll tape the Collision episode for the to be aired the following Saturday. But last night's Fyter Fest was done live. Both shows were done live on TBS. So coming from the Mission Ballroom in Denver, Colorado, Dynamite, which of course you had Excalibur, Ian Riccaboni, and Taz on commentary. The show opened well. The show initially opened up with Will Ospreay calling out Swerve Strickland to challenge him at next week's Summer Blockbuster on next Wednesday's Dynamite, in the hopes of maybe knocking some sense into him to make him realize that Jon Moxley's the enemy, not Adam Page. But of course, some people would argue that Will Ospreay's attempts to kind of get those two to work together is probably a waste of time, but including the two of them. So, but then after that, the night opened up. The opening match saw AEW World Champion Jon Moxley with help from Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta defeat Mark Briscoe via choking him out via referee's decision in a non-title match to open up Dynamite. Then in a women's tag match, you had AEW Women's World Champion Toni Storm teaming up with Mina Shirakawa to defeat Sky Blue and Julia Hart, setting up a match with Toni Storm's All-In opponent Mercedes Moné at ringside, watching the match and enjoying some kind of like gourmet meal, I guess. A steak and and some wine, and that interaction. Of course, Toni Storm and Shirakawa got the win on Skype, and also set up a match for next week between Toni Storm and Julia Hart, of course, a former TBS champion. In a 6-man tag match, after that, of course, you had a situation in which the Hurt Syndicate came out to start making challenges to people with a huge promo, only for them to be answered by the trio known as Jet Speed and Commander, former Ring of Honor World Television Champion, and Jet Speedball Mike Bailey and the Jet Kevin Knight, coming out as they were coming out for their match against La Facción Ingobernables of Beast Mortos, Dralistico, and Rush, which they did beat. Basically, as Jet Speed came out to confront the Hurt Syndicate before their match, the Hurt Syndicate told him, "Well, prove that you earn it. earn it, and which after the match set up a match for the following week, next week at Summer Blockbuster, in which MVP set up a match between the Hurt Syndicate with MJF, Shelton Benjamin, and Bobby Lashley against, and of course, Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley are the current AEW World Tag Team Champions, against the threesome of Commander and Jet Speed. Then you had kind of a singles match in which Max Caster made his return to AEW television to once again do his 5-minute challenges that he came into this one. They said 0-10. He hasn't won one yet, because every time he opens his mouth and starts flapping his gums, I think he's honestly expecting some local jobber to come, some local enhancement talent to come out. Instead, he gets the guys who are basically above him on the guard, because they're like, kid, you're stupid. So we're just gonna come out and beat the tar out of you, and that's exactly what happened here. One third of the AEW World Trios champions, Powerhouse Hobbs, came out and beat Max in just under 1 minute. Apparently the official time was 47 seconds, albeit on the announce team they said that the clock got down to 4:11, which would have been 49 seconds. So, and in the main event, a fatal 4-way that was set up over the last couple weeks for the AEW International title, that saw Kenny Omega successfully retain the international title over Brody King, Claudio Castagnoli, and Mascara Dorada. In the aftermath of the match, saw Kazuchika Okada come out to confront Omega, as now that match is set up for All In, in which winner take all match for both Okada's Continental title and Kenny Omega's International title. Now, whether or not it's going to be a merging of the titles, or whether or not it's going to be a merging of the titles, or basically they're going to be co-defended, has not really been made clear yet. Once the winner, once whoever wins the titles wins them. So that's all that happened on, and then following, of course, following Dynamite. As I said, normally they do the taping for a Collision as well, which usually is taped for Saturday night. But last night they decided to do it live right after. Nigel McGuinness and Tony Schiavone on commentary. Night opened up with Will Ospreay defeating Lio Rush in a match that was set up earlier, earlier on Dynamite. Lio Rush came out to confront Will Ospreay after Will Ospreay had tried to call out Swerve Strickland. FTR, in a match that was set up last week, Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, in a tag match that was set up last week, defeated Atlantis, former Ring of Honor World Television Champion Atlantis Jr. and current New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Champion Templario in a tag team match. In a 6-man tag match, in a trios match, Hechicero of CMLL teamed up with the Don Callis families, Kyle Fletcher, and New Japan Never Openweight Champion Konosuke Takeshita to defeat Bandito, Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito, and the Outrunners in a trios match. In a 4-way match for the Ring of Honor World Television title, in his first match since coming back from participating in the Best of the Super Juniors over in Japan. Nick Wayne, with of course Christian Cage and Mother Wayne in his corner, defeated A.R. Fox, Lee Johnson, and Sammy Guevara. Earlier in the night, Sammy Guevara's wife, Ty Mallow, made her return, saving Anna Jay from a beatdown from Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford, which set up another match for next week's Dynamite, in which Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford will be taking on Ty Mallow, and Anna Jay. Making her in-ring debut for AEW, Tekla defeated Lady Frost in 2.5 minutes, beating her via submission with a kind of a variation of a double arm bar, a move that's also part of, I think she calls it the Spider Trap. And in the main event, saw an 8-man tag match. You saw Daniel Garcia and Paragon of TNT champion Adam Cole, as well as Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong, defeating the Don Callis family members of Josh Alexander, Lance Archer, and RPG Vice of Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero. So that's all that happened on last night's Dynamite and Collision. Now moving ahead to tonight's talk about what's on tonight's TNA Impact and Ring of Honor Honor Club. So we'll take a look at those. So tonight's TNA Impact comes to everybody from the CAA Center in Brampton, Ontario, Canada, with Matthew Rainwalt and Tom Hannafin on commentary. Tasha Steeles of Order 4, with the great hands in her corner, will be taking on Indy Hartwell. In a match for the TNA X Division title, Moose defends against Eric Young of the Northern Armory, with, of course, Judas Icarus and Travis Williams in his corner. In a tag team match, the By Elegance brand, represented by Heather and M by Elegance. Of course, Heather, along with Ash, along with Ash, are the current TNA Knockouts tag team champions. They'll be taking on TNA Knockouts newcomers Harley Hudson and Myla Grace. In a Monsters Ball match, Rosemary takes on Zaya Brookside. And in the main event, the 6-man tag match, we'll see Frankie Kazarian team with TNA World Tag Team Champions, the Nemeth brothers, Nick and Ryan Nemeth, to take on, they're scheduled to take on Leon Slater, Matt Hardy, and Mike Santana. So that's all that's going down on tonight. In preparation for, of course, tomorrow night, TNA will be having their Against All Odds pay-per-view. We'll talk more about that tomorrow on tomorrow's show when we do the wrestling wrap-up, when we look back to tonight's event and look ahead to tomorrow night's we do know that, of course, Trick Williams of NXT will be defending the NXT World title against Elijah tomorrow night. Masha Slamovich is set to defend the Knockouts title against Lei Ling tomorrow night on Against All Odds, and we'll talk again more about that all tomorrow night. So now, also on tonight's Honor Club, from Ring of Honor Honor Club on ringofhonor.com. Coming from the Masonic Temple Theater in Detroit, Michigan, with Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni on commentary. In a Ring of Honor Women's World Title Proving Ground match, Athena will try to fend off the possible challenge of Rachel Armstrong, as these Proving Ground matches, much like the Eliminator matches in AEW, if the challenger wins the match, they will then be granted a title shot at some future date. So Athena will try to fend off the challenge of Rachel Armstrong here. Aaron Solo will be challenging Wheeler Yuta in a singles match, and then in a women's tag team match, CMLL's Persephone and former AEW Women's World Champion Thunder Rosa are teaming up to take on Dulce Tormenta from CMLL and Layla Gray. So that's all we got for the wrestling wrap up for you guys. Also, of course, we'll talk about tomorrow night's. Tomorrow we'll also look ahead to tomorrow night's SmackDown as well. So, and look ahead to the weekend's action of all the pay-per-views, not just TNA, but also WWE as well, and AAA, the AAA WWE. So now with that, now we're going to move on with today being Thursday, June the 5th, 2025. Let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche's history. So let me just get 1995, 2000, 2015, and 2010. All right, so first off, we're going to head back 30 years ago. As on this date, 30 years ago today, the first issue of Frontline Combat from Gemstone went on sale on this date back in 1995, 30 years ago today. Sold for $2, 32 pages. On this date, 30 years ago today, the first issue of Frontline Comics from Gemstone went on sale on this date back in 1995. Now, with that being said, now moving on to the next piece of niche history, we move ahead to the year 2000. On this date in the year 2000, 25 years ago today, WCW held its Monday Night Raw from the Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. It was the Go Home Raw to, let's see, what was the event? Oh, the Great American Bash, I believe. So this was the go home event to the Great American Bash coming up at Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. The night saw in a gauntlet match Kevin Nash taking on members of the New Blood in the main event. Defeated Disco Inferno in the first 8 seconds. Then he defeated Chris Candido. Then he defeated Johnny the Bull. Big Vito and Rey Mysterio Jr. all in the first minute and 2 seconds. And then ended up in a no contest with Shawn Stasiak at 2 minutes 13 seconds. Vince Russo defeated Ric Flair in a steel cage match on the night. Hulk Hogan defeated his nephew Horace Hogan. Scott Steiner retained the United States Championship over Vampiro. Eric Bischoff defeated Terry Funk to win the Hardcore Championship. G.I. Bro, part of the MIA faction, Misfits in Actions faction, defeated Billy Kidman of I can't remember what their faction name was, but it was basically and then the opening match of the evening saw for the WCW World Tag Team titles being defended. Chuck Palumbo and Shawn Stasiak defeated Chronic by countout to retain the WCW World Tag Team Championships. So now we move ahead, of course, to the year 2010. from the year 2000. So that's 15 years ago today. So on this date, 15 years ago today, Studio Dean's Hetalia Axis Powers Painted White premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 2010. So 15 years ago today, Studio Dean's Hetalia Axis Powers Painted White premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 2010. And finally, moving ahead to the year 2015, on this date in the year 2015, distributed by Shout Factory, Arcana Studios' Pixies, a Canadian animated fantasy film, was released on this date back in 2015. So 10 years ago today, the Canadian animated fantasy feature film released by Arcana Studios, Pixies, premiered in theaters on this date back in 2015. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow, of course. And don't forget, this Sunday I'll be joined by the Metal from the Vomitorium as we take another trip down comic history lane, going back to look at books that went on sale in May of 1940. This week we'll be focusing in on books that went on sale from Quality Comic. And with that, I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.